Ayers was thrust into the spotlight of this year's presidential race by his association with Barack Obama. The question at hand is just how significant that association was. Now, in a moment, Mr. Ayers will talk to us, but first, let's take a look at how this 60s radical turned college professor found himself at the center of a media storm.
How you doing?
William Ayers' name first came up during Barack Obama's primary race with Senator Clinton.
Senator Obama served on a board with Mr. Ayers for a period of time.
But it was during Obama's battle with John McCain that Ayers would become a regular line of attack.
His relationship with Mr. Ayers is open to question.
Our opponent is someone who sees America as imperfect enough to pal around with terrorists.
Ayers would become a target because of his radical past. A son of privilege, he rebelled by joining the Weather Underground, an anti-war group that bombed the Capitol, the Pentagon, and police headquarters during the 1970s. 3 group members, including Ayers' then-girlfriend, were killed in this townhouse when one of the bombs they were making exploded. Then, after 9/11, Ayers was quoted as saying he didn't regret any of the bombings and that the group didn't do enough. By then, Ayers had become a respected professor at the University of Illinois, Chicago, and had met a politician named Barack Obama.
But as Senator Clinton said in her debates with you, we need to know the full extent of that relationship.
40 years ago, when I was 8 years old, he engaged in despicable acts with a radical domestic group. I have roundly condemned those acts. Mr. Ayers is not involved in my campaign. He has never been involved in this campaign, and he will not advise me in the White House.
So let's hear from the man himself. William Ayers joins us this morning. He's the author of many books. The one that has been re-released most recently is right there, Fugitive Days, Memoirs of an Anti-War Activist. Now, thank you very much for being here. Clearly, the matter at hand is this relationship with Barack Obama, so let's get right to it. You did have a meaningful relationship with Barack Obama, didn't you?
I knew Barack Obama, absolutely, and I knew him probably as well as thousands of other Chicagoans. And like millions and millions of other people worldwide, I wish I knew him better right now.
But thousands of people were not asked to help start his political career in their home, right? That's an intimacy.
I was asked by the state senator to have a coffee for Barack Obama when he first ran for office, and we had him in our home, and I think he was probably in 20 homes that day, as far as I know, but that was the first time I really met him.
You use the term family friend. President-elect uses a phrase more like Bill from the neighborhood. Those two are not the same thing. Family friend signifies a relationship, doesn't it?
I think you're quoting from the Fugitive Days, right? Yeah, I'm talking there about the fact that I became an issue unwittingly and unwillingly in the campaign, and I decided that I didn't want to answer any of it at that moment because it was such a profoundly dishonest narrative. But I'm describing there how the blogosphere characterized the relationship. I would say, really, that we knew each other in a professional way, again, on the same level as, say, thousands of other people. And I am a guy around the neighborhood, incidentally. Absolutely.
But you understand the concern here is that it seems that there's an evasiveness here. Yes, you served on boards together. But that relationship, that somebody's in your home, you are introducing them to a political community that you have connections with, you're vouching for someone, there's an advocacy, there's a relationship. Certainly you must have spoken with Barack Obama about things. You must have gotten to know him before you did that. Fair enough?
No, actually I didn't get to know him before I did that, but I did know him in the context of being on a board together. And that relationship was public, always in a large kind of context. But, you know, I don't really agree with your premise that this is worthy of really exploring, because I don't buy the idea that guilt by association should be any part of our politics. And the interesting thing is, as much as this was created as an issue in the campaign, it appears that for most people it had no traction. It had no meaning. So the assumption that if two people share a cup of coffee or take a bus downtown together or have 1,000 other types of associations, that somehow means they share politics, outlook, policy, or responsibility for one another's actions.
But when you're measuring the content of a man's character who wants to be president of the United States, certainly information about his friendship/coffee/association with a man who has the past that you have creating violence against the United States. You must understand how that would be a concern.
No, I don't agree with either part of that. I think the dishonest narrative is one to demonize me. Let's remember that what you call a violent past, that was at a time when thousands of people were being murdered by our government every month. And those of us who fought to end that war were actually on the right side. So if we want to replay that history, I would reject the whole notion that demonizing me or the Weather Underground is relevant. But secondly,
different discussion. Violence is it's either never okay or it's sometimes okay. It's a separate philosophical discussion. The relevance here is Barack Obama was campaigning to be president. The analogy is if John McCain had an association, somebody had a coffee for him in his house to launch his political career, who was blowing up abortion clinics but never hurt anyone, you don't think that would be relevant?
I think the content is relevant, but let's go back again. The content of the Vietnam protest is a content where there were despicable acts going on, but the despicable acts were being carried out by our government. I never hurt or killed anyone.
If you think that you have the moral high ground, that's a very dangerous position, and you can do some really dreadful things. You see it with terrorists these days, you know, who think that, well, maybe Allah's on their side or history's on their side or whatever. They can do some things that are just completely unconscionable. They can blow up the World Trade Center, you know, they can just do horrible, horrible things. The Oklahoma City bombing. I'm sure that guy felt that he was on the side of right. And, you know, there may be a handful of people who agreed with him. So that is a dangerous ethical position that we fell into. That was caused, I think, a lot by the Vietnam War. I think that the Vietnam War made us all a little crazy. It's the only way I can explain it.
The Associated Press in Washington today received a 5-page typewritten letter in which an organization calling itself the Weather Underground said it had bombed the Capitol yesterday. The letter said, among other things, we have attacked the Capitol because it is a monument to U.S. domination over the planet.
We didn't do it, but we dug it. The people who did the Capitol bombing were the Weather Underground. They bombed the Capitol to bring a smile and a wink to all the kids who hate the American government.
There are sick minds, apparently, in this country who think that violence can be used to bring about social reform or change national policy.